Hi there. Welcome to another edition of TokStocks. I'm your host, Keir Reynolds, and today we're lucky enough to have Sharyn Alexander, president of Sun Summit Minerals, with us again. This is a quarterly sort of update. I think it was about 6 months ago, actually, when we first had you on. Nice to catch up. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you, Keir? I think the last time we saw each other was at the Metals Investor Forum in Vancouver earlier this year.
Yeah, that's right. And well, you guys have certainly had a busy time of it since I last saw you. I think when we first sort of connected and first did the interview, we were probably trading at, I don't know, 8 or 9 cents a share. You guys have been certainly a lot higher than that, done a couple of rounds of financing. And then I've seen on your awesome social media that you guys do that it looks like you've been on site. So look forward to unpacking some of that with you. Before we get into all that, why don't we get our 60-second pitch out of the way? First question, what is the name and stock ticker of your company?
We are Sun Summit Minerals. We trade on the TSX Venture under the symbol SMN, and for US investors, we're on the OTCQB under SMREF.
What's the mission and vision of the company?
So our mission is really to drive value through discovery and expansion of high quality mineral assets. And our vision is to become a leading Canadian exploration company known for our commitment to value generation and wealth creation for shareholders through responsible exploration.
How many shares are outstanding?
We currently have about 68 million shares outstanding.
What's the insider ownership percentage and how much money have you invested?
So insiders currently hold around 10% of Sun Summit shares. It was higher before our share consolidation, but with the rollback, their positions have reduced. So I certainly have a position and I will be continuing to increase that position.
What is your market cap?
We currently stand at about $14 million.
Are you fully funded for 2024?
Yes, we're fully funded for 2024, and we've been successful in raising over $3.7 million in recent months.
What are your short-term catalysts?
The results from our ongoing drill program at the JD project are highly anticipated, so shareholders can expect steady news flow of news as we release the drill results.
Hey, excellent. Thank you very much for doing that. We got that out of the way. So as I sort of mentioned, I think we were trading around 9 cents a share when we put out our last video. And about 2 months later after that, you reached a high of 32 cents shortly around your first sort of financing closing. A rise of more than 250% for anybody that might have watched and participated and bought out of the market right after seeing your first interview with us. The shares have seen just a little bit of volatility, and actually just the other day, I guess yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, you had your 4-month hold on your first sort of 10-cent sort of financing that came free trading, and there was maybe a few people that sold maybe on the Friday, but it's sort of held up nicely. I think you closed today at just under, I think, 18.5 cents, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So good job there. Maybe why don't we get a little bit of macro talk out of the way? What do you think of the gold market and what's been going on with the gold price lately?
So I think gold's in an interesting place right now. So globally, gold has always been kind of a safe haven in terms of economic uncertainty. It always tends to perform well, but it's really reached unprecedented levels. So reaching, upwards of $2,500. So it's really showing resilience. But we're working in a market now where gold equities are starting to gain some attention. They've been, getting definitely a lot more investor interest. So despite this performance, however, smaller junior companies have been lagging behind a little bit. Despite this, we are optimistic. We're starting to see investments trickling down to the juniors. So what this environment really tells us is that these gold-focused projects are really attractive again. So as gold prices stabilize or continue to increase, we really anticipate a gradual recognition of the value of these junior companies like Sun Summit, especially for us as we work towards project advancement. So I really believe we're well positioned to benefit from the renewed interest in gold.
And maybe for those of the viewers watching that might not be familiar with Sun Summit, could you just give a brief sort of overview? We'll have a chance to dive in a bit more, but Maybe you could just give a quick overview on what the company's got in terms of projects and what you're looking to do.
So we're focused in British Columbia. So we have two gold, precious metals projects, both with copper porphyry potential. Our Buck project is in central BC, and that had seen a lot of work done in the past few years. And we've just optioned a new project up in the Toodoggone region of BC. So that's just east of the Golden Triangle. That's the JD project. And so high grade gold and silver, kind of an epithermal environment, and then some copper porphyry potential. And that's where we focused most of our exploration dollars this year.
Yeah, that project, if I'm not mistaken, the JD that you optioned had some pretty high grade previous drilling that was done by other operators. Are you able to just maybe go over a couple of highlights?
Yeah, so JD has seen a lot of previous exploration, and that's actually what attracted us to the project, is that really it was a lot of exploration upside without so much risk, and that it did have quite a lot of drilling, as well as sampling, geophysics, trenching, and other work. So there's been upwards of 300 drill holes on the 15,000 hectare tenure package. 270 of those have been done in one area called the Fin Zone. And so that is more epithermal gold and silver. We're seeing grades up to 35 meters of 7.3 gram per ton gold, 22 meters at 12.5. And these are kind of these broader intercepts. But within those intercepts, we have shorter, more vein hosted high grades. So a meter of 215 gram per ton gold, 0.8 meter of 171 gram per ton gold. There's also the Creek Zone, which is actually, we drilled a few holes this year. This is just to the west of the Fin. Had only seen about 20 drill holes in the past, and they're seeing historical results of the Creek Zone, 87 meters at 3.6 gram per ton gold, including 4 meters of 61.2. And I mean, those are just drill results. There's some pretty spectacular surface samples results. In soils, we're seeing 8, 10, 12 gram per ton gold in soils. And then in rock samples, 326 gram per ton gold in rocks, 6,100 gram per ton silver. So 0.6% silver in rock samples. And then as well, we have amazing trenching results. So that's pretty exciting, because it really suggests the presence of a pretty robust mineral system that has a lot of potential.
Now, you touched on it a little earlier. You mentioned a couple of financings were done. You raised, I guess, almost $4 million, 3.7, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you could just sort of walk us through what was sort of raised and what those sort of terms were.
So you're correct. We completed 2 financings, and this was driven by significant interest in the JD property option. So that really enabled us to secure quite a lot of capital for exploration. So in April, we raised $2.5 million, and that was through a private placement. The hard dollar units, it was hard dollar only, priced at 10 cents, and that included a 13-cent half warrant for 2 years. And so with that financing, we were able to attract a new group of really sophisticated high net worth investors, family offices who were really interested in JD. We did have the ability to oversubscribe that financing. However, we chose not to. We were cognizant of dilution. And that is when we started seeing investors acquiring shares and building their position in the market. So that's when we went up to 32 cents. So we were pretty strategic in curating a pretty high quality long-term shareholder base. And then our second financing, which was more of a top up of the April financing, we raised an additional 1.23 million. That was both flow through and non-flow through. So the flow through unit was 21 cents. The non-flow through unit was 18 cents, and each had a 25-cent half warrant for 2 years. And that financing was oversubscribed. So that's really a testament of the strong interest in the project. So I think in the end, we've really built a strong shareholder base who really are interested in the long-term vision. And so that really ensured that we were well capitalized for 2024 exploration and has allowed us to advance the JD project significantly.
And you kind of touched on it. So the type of investors that you were getting, these are fairly experienced investors that know about sort of earlier stage sort of mining exploration and the need for ongoing rounds of capital being raised. And yeah, any any sort of institutional sort of investors or anybody that you're able to talk about, or really just sort of high net worth strategics to you?
Yeah, I mean, we really had a diverse mix of investors: retail, high net worth, investment advisors, family offices, long-term shareholders. And that's what we were aiming for. We really wanted that diversity. We wanted that stable and supportive shareholder base that really understood, as you mentioned, the long-term nature of exploration. Um, we did have several investment advisors and brokerage firms as well, and so that's going to help in terms of future engagement and investments. So while we don't have a huge we haven't had a huge institutional participation or involvement in these past few rounds, we think that it really speaks to the really strategic perspective on the company's potential. Also, insiders, including our management team, have participated in the financings, and we're also buying shares in the market as well. So it really demonstrates our confidence in the company's future.
Excellent. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, there was also an adoption of an RSU plan where it was adopted up to 6 million shares could be sort of issued to employees, directors, consultants. Maybe you could just discuss what the motivation sort of around that has been, and whether there's been any issuance of those shares.
Stock options have their place, but RSUs, or restricted share units, they provide us with a lot more flexibility. And it's mostly about rewarding the team for their performance and their long-term commitment. So what it's doing, it's ensuring we remain competitive in attracting talent and keeping the team focused and motivated. So unlike the stock options, the RSUs are vested equity. So it allows us to conserve cash for project advancements. And so as of now, we haven't issued any RSUs, but we're evaluating the right time and the conditions for doing that.
All right, so you set up the program, and then if and when there's a time, then you'll be able to draw from that.
Exactly.
Excellent. And in February, you completed a 1-for-3 sort of share rollback, so tightened up your share capital. Since then, you've kind of doubled up the share count through acquiring the JD option and completing the 2 sort of financings. What do you say to people, and how do you sort of plan to manage dilution as best you can sort of moving forward?
So following the share rollback and the financings, we are mindful of dilution. You're correct. We completed the 3-to-1 rollback and consolidated our share structure. Keep in mind that was one of the negotiated terms of the option agreement for the JD project. But moving forward, managing dilution will be about managing the need for capital with the impact on our share price. So we are exploring various strategies. There's non-dilutive financing options, ensuring any future financings are done at a higher price to minimize dilution. But ultimately, our focus is advancing our projects and delivering results that will increase the share price and then provide value for shareholders.
So I know you're all excited to talk about projects, and I can't wait to get into that. Last sort of question. Thanks for letting me get the preamble out of the way. You guys sort of, I think, adjusted terms of the JD sort of project when you did the property option. I think prior to the financing closing, the first one, I think there was a slight adjustment. Could you just sort of go over what the option terms are today for the JD project?
So in April, we made the decision to renegotiate the terms, and that was centered on the first year exploration expenditure commitment. So that was reduced really in order to, it allowed us to be more flexible in how we allocate our resources. So initially we were required to spend 2.5 million in the first year. We negotiated this down to 1 million with additional spending carried over to the second year. So this gave us a bit of breathing room. The renegotiated terms were more in line with kind of current market conditions and the long-term exploration strategy. And it turns out we're quite close to the original amount of 2.5 million for our 2024 exploration at JD, which means much of it will be transferred to year 2 commitments.
Hey, great to hear. I'm sure it was a very thoughtful thing to sort of do, because you guys were, didn't have a lot of capital and still needed to go out and market the financings and didn't know what the market conditions were going to look like. So that's great. Good to hear. Now, I think what everybody would really like to know is a little bit of like an update on what's going on the project side, like what the strategy for exploration has been. I get, it's British Columbia. We're in the main sort of exploration season with the good weather. Could you sort of talk a little about what's going on at JD and if there's any work going on at Buck?
I'll start with JD. So our summer work program has been quite extensive and really focused on maximizing the potential of the target. So we've done drilling, so both confirmation and step out drilling at the Creek Zone. So that's an area where the historical results were pretty encouraging, had only seen about 20 drill holes in the past. And some pretty interesting step outs as well. In addition to drilling, we've also done soil and rock sampling. We've done detailed mapping, both geological and alteration mapping, structural mapping, and then IP ground geophysics. So these activities are really good for both epithermal and porphyry environments. And then as well, we did a property-wide LiDAR survey. So that really maps the project topography in high resolution. And so that's going to really help us define the controls on mineralization we want to understand, and also help us refine our drill targets. So at the end of the day, all of this is really going to play a crucial role in the success of our exploration programs.
And you were talking a bit earlier about the Fin zone. That was a zone that had seen a lot of drill holes. Was there any drilling that's sort of being done there?
So our current program, we did not go back to Fin. There are some areas that we've been looking at, however, mostly along strike. There is a fault there that is thought to be some kind of control on mineralization. There's some targets to the north to step out to expand some of the mineralization as well along strike. But it was all about prioritization. There is areas that were already high potential, like around the Creek Zone, and then there were some areas, some targets that really were more discovery potential. And we really saw some interesting targets out of the geophysics and also the surface sampling. And so this program was a mix of both more of these high potential targets around known mineralization, as well as targets that hadn't been drilled previously. And so more discovery potential, blue sky, more scout drilling. So that could really lead to some exciting results. It was just mostly prioritization of all the different targets in the project area.
Sure. Is this all core drilling that you're doing?
Yeah, so we did HQ, which is a slightly bigger core, and we did oriented core as well. And so that not only will give us a larger sample size in order to do geological logging, but also it helps us understand the structures, the faults and veins, to understand the controls on mineralization, which will help us plan future drilling.
And how many meters are planned for drilling or ongoing in JD this summer?
We had planned around 3,000 meters, and so we haven't got to that amount yet. So we'll see how we go. This has been a fairly flexible program. Holes have been extended as if we've liked what we've seen. If the hole is dead, we'll cut it off. So it's been pretty flexible, and we'll be able to share the program details with the market as we complete the program.
Excellent. And the project itself, JD, it had a lot of drilling historically sort of done. Do you guys have sort of the database for those previous results, or do you have any of the core? Are you able to use any of that to like put together an updated 43-101?
We have quite a lot of historical data, and that took up most of the winter and spring before we began exploration, was just compiling that data, digitizing it. A lot of it had not been previously digitized, especially the surface sampling and trenching. In terms of the drilling data, we were lucky in we had the original assay certificates, we had the original logs. And so while we have no core prior to 2012, that was all remediated and disposed of by government, just doing cleanup of the area when the Toodoggone really wasn't an attractive area for exploration. Everything 2012 and onwards, we do have the core for. And so we've been pretty lucky in that we've really hit the ground running. We haven't had We haven't started from zero. And so we really were able to have some immediate high potential drill targets based on existing drilling.
All right, sounds great. And the buck, when you and I sort of first chatted back in February, there was some discussion about putting out an initial resource calculation. Is that project sort of taking second fiddle now to you indicated that there was a lot of interest for financing around JD. Anything going on Buck?
Yeah, I'd be lying to say we weren't distracted by JD, but Buck definitely remains a valuable part of our portfolio. The strategic shift towards JD was more about the opportunity to explore and test these high-grade targets and deliver results in the near term. But Buck is still very much part of our plan. It's just a matter of timing and prioritization. So remember, at Buck, the exploration can be done year-round. So we're essentially town-based. The core shack is just south of the town of Houston. There is lots of work to be done at CR. That's the copper porphyry project that we picked up from Teck in early 2023. So we actually are planning a small exploration program this fall at the Buck project. And then you've mentioned the resource estimate. So we have been going through that exercise. It is taking a while. We are getting a third-party review on that. And so we're not going to be putting anything out and disclosing it until it's been reviewed and we're fully confident of its results. But that is something that we're still working on.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Maybe you could sort of talk a little bit about community relations. How's it been getting onto the JD? That's a newer project for you, for your company, and you guys are, you've done a site visit. What can you say about the community relations for your projects?
Like any company in British Columbia, community relations and Indigenous consultation is really a top priority. So we built strong relationships with the various Indigenous nations for both the Buck and the JD project. So that includes regular communication, site visits, and really being transparent about the activities, the type of activities that we're doing and the intentions. Just recently, when I was on site, we did have a site visit with a First Nations group, and we were able to visit the drill sites and see the reclaimed area, and the feedback was pretty positive. So it really reinforces the importance of conducting our operations in a way that's respectful and also beneficial to the local communities. We do hire a lot of local community members, and so they are part of the project, and there is job opportunities and business procurement opportunities.
So when I see you in the city, and you've been on project. How many times have you been on your project there at JD?
So I was on site just once earlier in August. Our technical advisor and our VP exploration, however, have been up several times. And then as well, we're using Apex Geoscience, which are our project managers. They're also doing the work for Thesis Gold, which is right next door to us. So, but we're on a chat, we're on email, and so we're constantly up to date and communicating with each other, sharing photos. And we have a database as well that's live synced. And so we can see the data as it's being logged. We can ask questions. But yeah, the Tutagon, it's a pretty beautiful area of BC. It's almost subalpine, so there's not so many trees. As you've seen from social media, the landscape is quite gorgeous. So yeah, it's been great.
Excellent. How did you enjoy your time? How many days were you there?
I was just there maybe about 5 days. It was to do the First Nations site visit, and then as well just to meet with the team, go out to some drill sites. It's kind of difficult being, president, CEO, and you don't want to step on toes when you're out there. We have a very capable team in our technical advisor, VP exploration, and other consultants. And so I didn't want to distract them too much, but the team have things well under control.
Any interesting core that you were able to get a look at?
That's a good question, Kier. Definitely there were some shiny sulfides, which is always
Yeah.
good to see. But of course, I can't speak to how happy we are. We're just going to have to wait for the drill results to come out.
What's the timing looking like, and how will you batch them? Are you going to complete all your 3,000 and send them, send all the individual sort of batch samples at once, or will you batch them off and send them so you'll have a couple of potential sort of news releases related to that? What's your strategy there?
So as the core samples are, the core is logged and they're cut and shipped off to the lab, that would always come in a steady stream, depending on how fast they log and sample the core. Once it gets to the lab, that has to be prepared and then go through the analytical process. So as the assays start trickling in, at that point, we'd make the decision whether or not to release them as they come or batch them out. I think given that these drill results are highly anticipated, we're not planning to keep people in suspense too long. You probably will see some batching. However, we're not going to wait for, all the holes.
Sure.
We are probably going to do some small batches, but of course, it really depends on what we see. There has to be a certain interpretation with the core when with the results as we put them out. We want to have a story as to what we think is controlling mineralization, what this means in the bigger picture. And so putting out results alone, I don't think constitutes a news release. So it's going to be a mix of wanting to share those results with the market, as well as us understanding what we're actually sharing.
Okay, and any idea on when there be drill results that might be able to be sort of released? Is there like a window, or is it going to be like a September, October, November sort of deal?
Yeah, we're looking at this fall. So we started drilling in July, and it's about a 4 to 6 week turnaround right now. And so, as you've mentioned, September, October, November, that's when we're going to start to see most of our results being shared. And that's from the drilling as well as the sampling.
Excellent. Any other catalysts that we should be aware of that you want to speak about?
There's a few other things that we have on the go that we will be sharing, including some additional work that we would like to do at JD as well. I mentioned at Buck. We have the MRE as well as an small exploration program this fall on the CR project. But yeah, basically the drill results, the results of our exploration program, I think will really be what people are waiting for.
Why should investors consider investing in Sun Summit right now?
Well, first and foremost, I would say that our project portfolio really offers significant upside potential. British Columbia is a low-risk jurisdiction. Both of our projects are in pretty good regions with established deposits. The JD project itself has high-grade gold and silver targets. The Toodoggone has seen renewed interest from major mining companies. Our technical team has deep experience in BC, so it has that strong jurisdictional advantage. We're just completing our fully funded exploration program. So for investors that are looking for exposure to gold and silver in a stable and mining friendly jurisdiction, Sun Summit really represents a good opportunity with multiple catalysts on the horizon.
What sort of investor relation programs do you have going, and what conferences might you be attending that somebody might be able to meet you or maybe see some core at some point?
Investor relations and corporate communications really are critical. We want clear, consistent communication, as well as targeted outreach to increase visibility and brand awareness. So we engage with existing shareholders, strengthening those long-term relationships, but then also attracting new investors. We're reaching out to strategic investors, so that includes the institutions, high net worth individuals, corporations. As you mentioned, we're using social media and other digital platforms. We've had regular news flow this summer in terms of what our program is like. So really, we want to create a strong shareholder base. In terms of upcoming events, I'm going to be at a Vancouver investor event next Friday, on September 6th in Vancouver. And in terms of our fall schedule, we haven't committed to anything as of yet, but we will be doing investor roadshows, one-on-ones, and really a targeted approach in terms of getting the story out and updating investors.
You're not going to Beaver Creek?
I personally will not be at Beaver Creek, no.
Okay.
I know, I'm probably the only one.
Well, it seems like a lot of people in the mining front are going to be there. I won't be there either due to other commitments.
We can fry in our cereal together.
There you go. But I'll see you on the boat next Friday.
Excellent.
Yes, I saw that you'll be attending. That should be a good one. I hear they've got a good 120 odd investors for you to meet. So there you go. Anything else that you sort of want to cover that we didn't get a chance to sort of go over in this update?
I think the main takeaway is really we're poised for growth. I mean, we have the right projects. We're fully committed. We're working hard to bring value to shareholders. We're looking forward to what's ahead, and we're really grateful to the support of our shareholders as we continue. The next few months are going to be busy, and we're excited to share our progress.
Well, we appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to give us an update, and we want to continue sort of following along. We'll be eagerly anticipating these JD sort of results because, if from some of the historical stuff that you've got there, they're the type of numbers that, certainly can make investors pay attention, having grade as well as width. So wish you lots of continued sort of success there, and also congrats on completing the 2 raises since we last chatted, and we'll look to schedule an update here over the next quarter.
Great, sounds good, Kier. Thanks for your time.
All right.